Good afternoon, officials, and welcome to this week's edition of the WHSAA Football Teaching Tape. This is Tyler Spear, your state coordinator of football officials, and I'm thrilled today to be joined by your state football representative, Chris Edwards. Chris, how are you?
Doing well, Tyler. Thanks for allowing me to join in this week and co-host this week's training videos.
Absolutely. How's the season going?
So far, so good. Unfortunately, myself, I haven't worked a lot of games due to watch my son play, but I get the blessing of watching video and helping train. So that's kind of a different aspect for me this year.
Very nice. Well, hopefully you still get a few nights under the lights. All righty. Well, folks, we'll jump right in this week here. This week's topic, you'll notice the video format's a little different, and this is actually by request of the Activities Association as well as a few of our member schools. We've seen a few things kind of come up over the last few weeks, and so we thought it would be important to level set on this particular topic, and I asked Chris to join me for this as well. And so the topic that we're going to talk about today is targeting and unnecessary roughness. And, this is a topic we talk a lot about in our rules meetings and our association meetings, right? And it's something we always kind of think about because we don't see it a lot. I mean, Chris, when's the last time you dismissed someone for a targeting foul, would you say?
I cannot say I've personally, disqualified any players for targeting, in high school
Hmm.
football. You see it very seldomly, based on the severe act, maybe away from the ball or some action that's not a football play. But I can't recall the last time I or one of my crews has disqualified a player for targeting.
Right. And so even though it's rare, it's funny how we always talk about it. It seems like it always comes up when we talk about this. And so there's just a few things that we want to talk about, the two of us with our officials as it relates to these topics, just to level set and to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page. So, um, Chris, why don't you start us off here?
All right, sounds good. As far as the rules overview with targeting, illegal helmet contact, we have the blindside block, we have unnecessary roughness. These kind of all overlay a little bit. And I sometimes think we maybe not confuse them back and forth, but I think we use them, as synonyms with each other. But first of all, with Rule 220-2 targeting, this is an act by any player who takes aim and initiates contact against an opponent above the shoulders with the helmet, forearm, hand, fist, elbow, or shoulders. I just want to reinforce that's the contact above the shoulders. And then 943M, no player or non-player shall target an opponent. Um, I recall a play here in a lower level game a handful of years ago where on a kickoff, one of the our team members advanced down the field and had no reason to hit an opponent. And we did call the targeting on that one just based on there was no need for the contact. And in our minds, it was a direct target of an opponent.
Hmm.
Uh, so then illegal helmet contact, and this is Rule 220-1. And this is initiating contact with the helmet against an opponent. And some types of these plays might be butt blocking, face tackling, or spearing. And then Rule 943I, no player, non-player shall initiate illegal helmet contact. And in the rule book, there's some different descriptors in there. And I think this is one we sometimes see, when maybe a teammate is holding up the runner and we see the secondary defender come in and his helmet's down potentially and
Hmm.
coming in and trying to clean up that play. Thank goodness we try to clean those plays up. Butt blocking, sometimes we see those on kickoffs or any type of scrimmage kicks. And then face tackling is just maybe when an opponent doesn't do a good job of keeping his head up and then just initiates that direct face contact. And then this next set, I think, is where we look into this, where we're talking about unnecessary roughness, just non-football play. In 9-3, we have illegal blocking, which is including the blindside block or the chop block, where we have one teammate initiating high contact and the second one coming in and hitting low at the same time. And then 9-4, this illegal personal contact. And this is including the above, but also all the bad things, we talk about. And to me, when we talk about in our associations and we have these conversations around the state, I just like to use the phrase non-football plays. If this is non-football play, that's illegal personal contact. And it's just kind of those plays that are just out of the ordinary. You don't think that they're doing it in the intent of helping their teammates in those things. So that's where that illegal personal contact come in. And then just a reminder, these are personal fouls and they're not unsportsmanlike conduct fouls. So we signal them with the arms chopped across each other, and those are considered personal fouls.
Mhm. So we wouldn't dump somebody for 2 chop blocks, right?
No, those aren't to me justifiable for
Right.
disqualification, because the chop block, as much as it is dangerous, it sometimes just unfortunately is part of the game where we just have miscommunication between two offensive linemen, but it's not done with the intent to hurt somebody or to cause harm. In my
Mhm.
opinion.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, our state does a good job about this old thinking's kind of gone where, like a dead ball, personal foul, late hit out of bounds. There used to be thought that that was unsportsmanlike, and all of a sudden, if a kid had 2 late hits out of bounds because we erroneously called them unsportsmanlike, that kid's done.
Yep.
Obviously, that's not the case. So, but I think it's just a good reminder that contact is a personal foul and non-contact is the unsportsmanlike conduct stuff, right?
Yep, you bet. Like I said, that contact, if there's something initiated, we just deem that as that personal foul.
Mhm. Absolutely. And so you're probably all wondering why the heck we're talking about this now. And I'll jump into this a little bit. And it's really for the same reason it always is, and that is player safety. You know, those days and where those hits that used to get us helmet stickers, those just aren't part of the game anymore. And obviously we just want those vicious hits out of our game. Um, but in addition to that, we also just want to make sure and protect our players, right? I'll give you an example. A school has reached out because they're seeing their running backs get kind of gator rolled. And if you're not sure what that is, you can Google or YouTube gator roll football, and you'll see this tackling mechanism that sometimes defenders are using on a running back. Now, while it's not explicitly illegal in our code, obviously that's things we don't want because those are things that are just generally dangerous. And so that's a big piece of it here. Um, Chris gave me a really good reminder on this one that these hits occur on either side of the ball. It's not just a defender lining up an offensive player. They can happen on either side of the ball, and they happen frequently in the kicking game as well. So, kind of have to have our head on a swivel there. All of us, Chris, myself, the Activities Association, we want you ultimately to, when in doubt, think about player safety and prioritize player safety, right? That's the biggest thing here, and nobody's going to question you if you've erred on the side of player safety. Um, Another, I think, important indicator, and we do a good job of this in our state. We don't have this issue. I'm not bringing it up because it is an issue, but we do need to remember that our code is different than the league and the college ranks, where we don't have the same mechanisms for disqualification that these other levels do. And so we can penalize these fouls without just the mandatory ejection of a player. And so, if you came to Chris or I, and Chris, if I came to you and I said, Chris, I have a personal foul with targeting, what are you going to ask me?
Well, I think first things, Tyler, we're gonna kind of ask you what you saw first, and talk about indicators.
Hmm.
Do you see anything that deemed unnecessary or a non-football type play? We'd kind of debrief on, where the contact happened, what action led to that contact, and then we kind of discuss those potential things. But I think we would just try to take a deep breath and kind of work backwards through the play and make sure we saw things clearly. We never want to react just because there was a big hit and the emotions are high. So
Hmm.
hopefully we can kind of settle those emotions down and just talk rationally through the play. and then deem if it was worth disqualification, because there are plays that could lead to that. But
Mhm.
I think we could hopefully avoid that by looking at those key indicators. Where was the contact? Was it head to head? Was it shoulder to head?
Mhm.
Was there launching? And those types of things. And then just kind of rule from there.
Absolutely. And Chris, you said it perfectly. White hats, you should be asking your officials that throw on this. The things you see on the right side of this, the first two bullet points you see on the right side of this image are things that we're looking for, because we can throw targeting without disqualification. However, if it was excessive and unnecessary and it was intending to punish a player, that's a big indicator. Or, obviously, if it's on a defenseless player, that rises to the occasion as well, right? And so you'll see the rules references there. Look at those at your convenience. But ultimately, that is important too, is that we make sure that if we're going to go with this, that there are indicators. Otherwise, we can just throw. And the good news is, folks, is that we can, if we have a Chris and I, the state, we have the ability to look at film after the fact. And so the good news there is we want you to err on the side of safety. But if you look up 2 days later, you can give us a call and go, man, take a look at this. Tell me what you think. And we are very receptive to that in this state. And so we would just encourage that thoughtfulness throughout too, because it's hard to make those decisions in the moment and without replay. So as we transition, just a few reminders for this season going forward. And we kind of touched on this in the beginning. The first is that nobody wants to eject a player, right? It's interesting to talk about. You can see the playlists on YouTube of all these car wreck targeting fouls, and it's kind of, there's a little thrill to it, but we don't romanticize these player ejections. They are absolutely a last resort. Um, we want to find ways not to eject kids unless we have those things that are excessive and unnecessary or against a very defenseless player. So they're a last resort. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we don't want to jump to conclusions by any means. And I think that's why we talk about this next point here, where it says, see the whole thing, see the whole play. And that just makes sure we're not putting any guessing into the action. We just see it clearly. And often plays, if it's on the ball, we might have two sets of eyes on it.
Mm.
But this is where we kind of talk about, dead ball officiating, off ball officiating, because sometimes those to me are those hits that are deemed unnecessary. And those are, in my mind, ejectable offenses. If the ball is 30 yards away and we have somebody go over there and just unload on a player, to me that's a targetable offense, and that's to me is where we could disqualify a potential player. But just make sure we're seeing things clearly. But like you said, Tyler, the player safety, and that's our first and foremost objective of all of us. If we see something that's just not within the rules, we're going to throw the flag and we're going to protect that player. And I think sometimes we think we're protecting the player being hit, but also we're trying to protect the player doing the hitting. And
Mhm.
those could be good learning moments if we can get that flag, and then we can talk them through, talk to the coaches. They can go back and watch film, and they can teach correctable or correct for fundamentals on how to hit and do it correctly, so we can protect both offensive, defensive players, the kicking player, the R players, and those things.
Absolutely. And just remember too that we're here to support you as officials. We have your back 100%. So if something like this happens in your game, let us know. We are happy to watch clips with you, offer thoughts, or if a school says that they're gonna reach out, encourage them to, because we want to make sure and put eyes on this and do right by the game, but ultimately know that we're here to support you. So let us know if you have one of these kind of big plays, or especially if you have a DQ, be sure and let us know, just so that we can support you in that way and maybe look at some tape as well. We're going to transition to a little film review here next, but before we do, just want to leave this on the screen for a little bit so that if you guys have any need to reach out, don't hesitate to reach out to Chris or I. We're here as a resource, and always happy to talk a little football. All right, so now what I'll do is we'll jump in to a little bit of football review here. And we'll start with this one here. Chris, can you see my screen okay?
It's just started. Yep, there we go. We got
Per
the play loaded up here.
Great. Okay. So, folks, what we're going to look at on this play, I love end zone views. Coaches, thank you for putting up end zone views. You're going to see a kicking team player come across the field here, and I think it's this guy I'm looping with my mouse. Um, when we talk about erring on the side of player safety, and I'll let this one go. Yeah, it's 52 and white here, the second guy in. He's our the person we should watch here, I believe. But when we talk about erring on the side of safety, this is what we're talking about. So I'm gonna let this go. And you can see it there, and it's kind of an interesting play because we also have a kick out of bounds. So I hope that crew had fun handling that one. But as we let this go through a second time, and you watch 52, and I'll try and slow it down here a little bit. And Chris, jump in anytime. But you could debate whether he saw this hit coming or not, right? And
Yeah, look at
so,
this. It's coming out of his peripheral to the right. And to me, he kind of lets up. He sees the play going out of bounds. And then here comes, the hit from his left side.
mhm. And so potentially, does he see this coming? Sure. But this is one of those where in the moment you see that, we want you to err on the side of safety. I'll back it up and show it again. We're going to support any time you throw this, we're going to support a flag for this. I see the two arms, and that makes me think a little bit about did he lead with the hands, but I don't think he does. I think it's shoulder first, and we would support a throw on this at any time. Um, I would still go blindside block on this, Chris. I don't know what you think, but I
Yeah,
would
I'm with
support a
you.
throw on this.
I'm with you on that one, especially considering the way the nature of the hit happens. It definitely has a lot of those factors of the BBW, and get that. And like you said, the biggest thing is protect the player too in that situation.
Hmm. Absolutely. So again, we can dissect this a bunch of different ways, but ultimately, if we're erring on the side of player safety, we can throw for this for just a personal foul, and it would be perfectly understandable. So we'll let this go one more time here. I mean, you can see the
Yeah,
offensive player. I mean, he sees it the whole way.
yeah, he does in that nature. And like you said, there's not that contact necessary to the head, or there's not maybe that launching, or it's not so far after the play it would be deemed just completely unnecessary. But just by rule, that play could be justified with the flag.
Hmm. So, okay, well, let's jump to the next one here and give me a second to pull this one up, if you would, please. Going to go 2 for 2, Chris, on end zone views, which is super nice.
Those bring such a great perspective of the whole play.
All right, let me know when that one's there.
Yep, you're good.
Okay. And so what I want you to watch in this play, officials, is you'll see the wide receiver here, number 4, come over the middle, and I'll just let this go. All right, Chris, I'll let it loop through. Why don't you drive on this one? Tell me what you think.
Yeah, in this situation, obviously there's a catch completed by the offensive team. Um, in this moment, you would like to see, a wrap up by the defensive player, taking that offensive player to the ground. But if you go back to those indicators, we have the forearm, leading, we have the helmet to helmet contact there. There's just a lot of factors that you look at, and um, would like a flag thrown on this type of play just to take that out of the game.
Mhm. I wouldn't say we're going to eject on this one by any
Nope.
means, but um, I certainly think this guy might be defenseless. So you could go
Yep.
just personal foul for that as well, don't you think?
Yep. Oh, I agree. The receiver's eyes are up, focusing on the ball, and then all of a sudden, once the catch happens, here comes that contact by the safety in that situation.
So again, you know, good to have eyes on this. kind of ironic pause there where you can see the head snap back. So it's a vicious hit. Um, and again, I think we would want to see a flag for a personal foul on this. And you could go personal foul against the defenseless player. You could go personal foul targeting. But this is one where, yeah, we want yellow on this. Perhaps not ejectable, but still one that we certainly want to see yellow on this because this is something that just isn't anything we need in our game.
Yeah. I think we want to go back, and kind of reinforce maybe a proper tackling technique by the defender to make sure safety on both sides. But also, we want to make sure we're not taking any of the hitting away from the defensive players. I mean, we definitely want them to make a play on the ball, have that opportunity to maybe break up this pass play. But in this
Mhm.
situation, like you said, the indicators are just there for that defensive player. And then you have, like you said, the head snapping back in a vicious action. But like you said, definitely not ejectable because to me, this is a play that's happened right on the ball. It's to me kind of a football play that we could clean up a little bit, but not something worth disqualifying a player for.
Yep. Yep, for sure. So drop yellow, but again, we're not looking to end anybody's evening there. All right, one last play here as part of this, and I'll set this one up a little bit here. Let me slide this over here. Chris, you can still see that, yes?
I got that. Yep.
Perfect. So I'm going to set this one up here, folks. Um, so this one here, you're going to see QB sweep come down in front of our wing official here. There's a couple mechanics things that perhaps we'd want to clean up from this, and we can talk about that. But the context I want to give you is that there was a flag on this one. The player in question was disqualified from the game, but ultimately where we ended up was we supported the DQ in the moment, but felt that this player that ending of his night early was enough of an issue and fit the crime, and so he did not sit the next week. So just want to offer you that context, and I want you to know that when I was asked about this, I completely supported the throw, completely supported where we went with this. So we'll go ahead and let this go through, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so you can see the hit coming. Watch the helmet of the defender here. That's definitely your indicator. Um, we'll let this go through one more time at normal speed, then I'll slow it down for us. Obviously, wing official, you can kind of just stay put on this, I think. Um, I mean, you're close to the action regardless, which is a challenge in this situation. Um, if we stay put, perhaps then we can retreat into the offensive backfield and look this way at it. A mechanics thing to think about. Ultimately, though, I think the important part here is that um, we just see that helmet down, the helmet to helmet contact by the defender, and then the flag is skied for this. And so, Chris, what else are you seeing on this one? I'll loop it back through here.
Like you said, the big thing, it'd be nice to have that helmet up, face mask up. But in this situation, as the runner advances, we kind of have that drop of the head and then just right into the front of the face mask of the runner in this situation. If we could maybe have that head off the side or slid off the side, that would be safe for each player. But yeah, we just have where this contact happens right in the front of the helmet, and you have the crown of the helmet, and just ends up being a pretty severe contact to the head, shoulders, and above.
Sure. So we have those indicators, right? And it merits saying, even though it doesn't technically affect our judgment here, right? Um, the QB's night was ended as well. And so while that doesn't matter, we don't know that in the moment. I think as we look at this, and again, I'm giving us the benefit of the doubt of slow motion, but you've got contact above the shoulders, you have the helmet down. I don't see, I mean, maybe you could talk a launch, maybe you could, some of that gets into that territory. Again, we're not going to split hairs here. But ultimately, I think what we just want you to see is we've kind of climbed the ladder here with these three plays. Um, We have things we want you to throw because we're erring on the side of player safety. We have those things that are definitely flaggable, but not ejectable. And then we have things like this where we would absolutely support um, ejection on this. And these are tough, guys. I hate that we have to talk about this, but ultimately we just want to make sure we're all on the same page about player safety, seeing the whole thing, and that type of a thing. So, Chris, anything else you'd like to add on this? I'm gonna let this go because there's a little bit of penalty enforcement on this too. But go ahead if there's anything you'd like to add, Chris.
Well, I just think we talked about earlier, seeing the whole play, and just because there's a big block or something, it doesn't always mean there was a foul, on that play. So we don't want to just always take away good hits by the defense or good blocks by the offense. See them through, but once you deem player safety is an issue, let's get that flag on the ground and let's just help both sides of the football.
Absolutely. And you can see they move this on. All this to say, folks, again, we thank you for your time. We thank you for all you do for the student athletes in the schools across Wyoming. Let's have a great week. Let's keep our players safe. And let's remember, let's set the standard. That first foul we throw, whether it's a hold or for the sideline or whatever, we're setting the tone for the whole game, for the whole crew. And so let's set that tone nice and high, don't you think?
Yeah, most definitely. Let the players play, let the coaches coach. When you get involved, make sure it's necessary. But then at the end of the day, make sure it's a great opportunity for everybody to enjoy a game of football.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, thank you for your time, sir. Appreciate having you join for this one.
No, it's been a great experience and I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Again, thanks, officials. Have a great week this week. This is Tyler Spear and Chris Edwards, your state representatives, and have a good one. We're signing off. Take care.